The best product leaders aren't just product managers. They are part psychologists, part economists, part strategists. They see the world through a lens of first principles. But how do you move from theory to practice? How do you stop being a victim of chaos and start being the architect of your own outcomes? This is the Sovereign PM, the podcast that deconstructs the ideas of product strategist Schwarzkopf to give you a more powerful way to think and lead. It's time to own your outcomes. Let's begin.
On today's deep dive, we're looking at something, well, a bit counterintuitive, isn't it?
Definitely.
This idea that the very things that got you here as a product leader, your expertise, your drive to just fix things, might actually be your biggest flaw.
We're calling it the advice monster.
Right, that voice inside, that almost automatic reflex to jump in with the answer. I think it's our value, but maybe it's undermining things.
It's a really critical blind spot for experienced leaders. The stakes are just incredibly high. And look, this isn't about, simple tips.
No quick fixes here.
Exactly. We're talking about dismantling a core behavior, one that quietly chips away at your team's autonomy, clouds strategic thinking.
And ultimately just limits what your whole organization can do.
We need to get down to the first principles of leadership here, beyond just, pushing out solutions.
So that's our mission for this deep dive. Unpack how this advice monster sneaks in, what it looks like.
It's different disguises.
Yeah, it's different faces. And then give you a real strategy, some powerful questions you can actually use.
These aren't just like conversation prompts. They're tools.
Tools to shift from being the answer giver, the bottleneck, to being someone who really ignites your team's own abilities. It's about rewiring an instinct, really. So let's jump right in. Picture this. It's super common, right? You're in a one-on-one, maybe with a designer,
Okay.
and they're stuck, tangled up in some complex user flow. You can see they're wrestling with it.
Yep, been there.
And before they even finish explaining the real problem, your brain's already firing off solutions. Have you tried a stepper?
What about a modal?
We should check out how Stripe does this. That impulse, that twitch.
That's the monster.
It tells you, quick, give the answer. That's your job. It whispers that if you're not solving it instantly, you're not adding value. Maybe you're even, failing.
And it feels like helping, doesn't it? We genuinely want to support our team.
Of course.
But here's the trap. That impulse creates, three huge systemic problems that echo way beyond that one conversation.
Okay, let's break those down.
First, and this was huge, we often end up solving the wrong problem.
The wrong problem. How so?
Well, think about it. The first thing someone mentions, it's almost never the actual root cause. It's the symptom.
Right, like the headache example you mentioned before we started. You give aspirin, but the real issue is dehydration.
Exactly. Our immediate advice, based on incomplete info, just puts a Band-Aid on that symptom. The team never gets to dig down and find the real strategic challenge underneath.
So you fix the surface issue, but the underlying problem just keeps coming back later.
Precisely. You're not curing the disease, just masking it. It's a recurring headache, organizationally speaking.
Okay, so that's a big one, jumping to conclusions, solving the wrong thing. It seems like it demands a real conscious effort to pause.
It really does. Because that urge, that need to provide a solution now, leads straight into the second problem. Our advice often isn't as good as we think it is.
Ouch. Tell me more.
Look, our solutions come filtered through our own experiences, our biases, our favorite ways of doing things.
Our mental models, yeah.
And experience is great, obviously, but it can also be a blinder. What worked on your last project, maybe a B2B thing?
Might be totally wrong for this new consumer app.
Exactly. We just don't have the full, up-to-the-minute context that the person living the problem has. Product stuff is messy, it's dynamic.
Things change fast.
Right. So our brilliant idea from the sidelines, it's almost always going to be less effective than something the team crafts themselves, because they're the ones actually wrestling with the current details. I mean, I've done it plenty of times, offered advice I thought was genius, only to realize later I'd missed some critical piece of the puzzle they already knew. It's humbling.
That idea of experience as a potential blind spot is...
Yeah, that's powerful. So, okay, if our advice can be off target, what's the ripple effect on the team?
And this is the kicker. This is the one that really impacts culture and capability long term. We disempower our team.
Disempower.
Every single time we jump in with the answer, the unspoken message is,
you couldn't figure this out yourself. Exactly. Whether we mean to or not. Think about how that slowly eats away at autonomy, at confidence, at their sense of ownership.
It creates dependency.
Totally. They stop bringing you problems to solve together and start bringing you problems to solve for them. They just wait for your answer.
And that's not just about feelings, right? That impacts everything, the roadmap.
Oh, absolutely. If every decision, every solution has to come from you, your roadmap slows to a crawl. Innovation stalls because the people closest to the customer, closest to the code.
They aren't empowered to act.
Right. You literally become the bottleneck, the single point of failure for your whole team's ability to move fast, to learn, to adapt.
So for anyone listening, if you feel constantly swamped, if your team seems hesitant, if things feel bottlenecked, this might be why.
It's likely a big part of it. It's the culture you're building, maybe without even realizing it.
Okay. So if we want to tame this advice monster, we need to be able to spot it first. You mentioned it wears different masks.
Yeah, 3 main ones. Knowing these helps you catch yourself in the act.
Right. Let's hear them. What's the first mask?
The first one is probably the most obvious. The tell it persona.
Tell it. Okay.
This is the one driven by that fear. I have to have the answer, otherwise they'll think I'm useless, a fraud.
Imposter syndrome fueling the advice monster.
Exactly. It makes you talk when you should be listening. You dominate meetings. You offer solutions before the problem is even clear.
So you become the source of all answers, not the facilitator of problem solving.
Right. And you become the bottleneck for critical thinking. It shuts down the team's collective brain power.
That's tough, though. Resisting that urge when you feel the pressure to be the expert.
It really is. It takes consciously redefining where your value truly lies. Which brings us to the second mask, which is a bit sneakier. The save it persona.
Save it like rescuing.
Precisely. This one whispers, don't let them struggle. Don't let them fail. If something goes wrong, it's on you.
So you jump in to fix things for them.
Yeah. A team member mentions a tricky stakeholder conversation, and you immediately think, I'll take care of it.
I'll smooth it over.
Right. But you think you're helping. But what you're actually doing is stealing a learning opportunity. Struggle, even failure sometimes. That's how we build resilience, how we learn to navigate tricky situations. You're essentially keeping the training wheels on.
Preventing essential growth by preventing the struggle. Got it.
It's a subtle form of micromanagement, often born from good intentions.
Okay, tell it. Save it. What's the third mask?
This one might be the most ingrained for many leaders. The control it persona.
Control it. Controlling.
It is. The underlying belief here is, things have to go according to my plan. I need to oversee everything to ensure success.
So every decision flows through you. Big strategic ones, tiny tactical ones.
Everything. It completely stifles shared ownership. And you absolutely need distributed decision-making if you want to scale, if you want an empowered team.
Because otherwise you're the bottleneck again.
Always. And you kill diversity of thought. Solutions only come from your perspective. Plus, it creates this culture of fear, where nobody dares make a move without your okay. Decision paralysis sets in.
Wow. Okay, so tell it, save it, control it. The common thread seems to be this implicit message of, I know better.
Or even just, I'm better at this than you. It undermines trust capability.
Yeah, the irony is using answers like armor, trying to protect our expert status. It actually makes us weaker leaders.
Totally. Because you disconnect from empathy, from the team's real insights. It feels safe, but it's isolating. A self-defeating loop.
So the million-dollar question, how do we break this? Just deciding I won't give advice doesn't seem like enough.
It's not. Willpower fails. Like you said, the advice monster is a habit, a default neural pathway.
You need to replace the habit.
Exactly. You need a new habit.
Right.
And it might feel awkward at first, like using your non-dominant hand, but it gets easier.
So what's the new habit?
It's actually quite simple in concept, though maybe not always easy in practice. The core principle is stay curious a little longer.
Stay curious a little longer.
Yeah. Curiosity becomes your primary tool. Questions, not answers, are your go-to. Think of questions as the leash for your advice monster.
Okay, I like that. Curiosity as the leash. So this isn't just about asking any question, right? There are specific types of questions.
Right. And this is where it gets really practical and powerful. These questions aren't just small talk. They're strategic leadership tools.
Let's get into them. What's the first one?
The first one is what Michael Bungay-Stanier calls the focusing question. And it is, quite possibly, the single most powerful question. What's the real challenge here for you?
What's the real challenge here for you? Okay, so back to that engineer example. They say, we'll miss the deadline.
Yep. And your advice monster screams, cut scope, add people, work weekends, tactical fixes.
But instead, you pause.
You pause, Take a breath, make eye contact, and ask genuinely, that sounds tough. What's the real challenge here for you?
And they might just repeat the deadline thing at first.
They might vote the deadline, but you stay curious. Okay, and what else is a challenge?
The persistence.
Yeah, maybe then they say, well, the docs from the other team aren't clear.
Oh.
Okay, and what else?
Keep digging.
And then maybe you get, and honestly, I'm not even sure this is the right approach technically. I'm worried it won't scale, and that's why I'm dragging my feet.
Boom. You just went from a simple deadline issue
To a fundamental strategic question about architecture and long-term viability. You help them find the right problem to solve, not just the surface one.
That's massive. It shifts your role entirely from symptom fixer to root cause diagnostician.
Exactly. It elevates the conversation and empowers them to think more deeply.
Okay, that's huge. What's the second question?
The second one is the unlocking question, and it's incredibly simple. And what else?
And what else?
And what else? It sounds almost too simple, right? But it's probably the most effective coaching question out there.
How does it work? Give me an example.
Think about user interviews, customer discovery. You ask about a pain point, they give you an answer.
The standard answer, maybe?
Often, yeah. The easy intellectual answer. Your advice monster wants to say, great, thanks, and move on. Tick the box.
Get the soundbite.
Right. But the curious leader, the coach, listens, nods, maybe waits a beat, and then just asks gently. And what else?
And you just keep asking it.
Maybe 3, 4, even 5 times. It can feel a bit awkward. Silence is okay.
What happens?
The first answer is the head answer. The second might go a bit deeper, but the third or fourth, that often comes from the gut. That's where the real vulnerability, the core motivation, the deep frustration lies.
The stuff they didn't even know they were going to say.
Precisely. It forces you to listen more than talk. It gives them space. You peel back the layers to get to the core insight, the first principles of their need. That's where breakthrough ideas live.
Wow, just letting silence in that simple phrase do the work. Okay, powerful. And the third question?
The third is the empowerment question. What do you want?
What do you want? That sounds very direct.
It is. And sometimes it's the hardest one to ask, but often the most impactful. Imagine that team member complaining again, broken process, difficult stakeholder. You've listened, maybe used, and what else? You understand the problem.
And the advice monster is yelling, save it, I'll fix it.
Right. I'll talk to the stakeholder, I'll rewrite the process. You're ready to swoop in.
But instead,
You look them in the eye and ask clearly, what do you want?
how do people usually react to that?
Often they're thrown off balance. They expect you to provide the solution. They might even say, I don't know, I just want it fixed.
Pushing back responsibility.
But the question forces a shift from passive complaining to active ownership.
They have to articulate a desired outcome.
Yes. And that is the absolute first step towards taking action themselves. When they can say, I want to set up a meeting with that stakeholder to define clear SLAs, or I want the authority to redesign this part of the process.
They've already started solving it.
Exactly. They've claimed agency. Your advice monster has no role here because they know the direction. Your role changes completely.
So what do you ask then?
Then your question becomes simply, okay, and how can I help you achieve that? You're no longer the fixer, you're the supporter, the enabler.
From solver to facilitator, that's a profound shift.
It really is. And zooming out, when you consistently tame your advice monster, using these approaches, staying curious, asking these questions,
You change your whole leadership style.
you fundamentally transform your role. You stop being the bottleneck. You stop being the single point of failure. You become a catalyst.
A catalyst for the team's growth, their autonomy.
Their confidence, their ability to tackle complexity themselves. You start building a truly resilient, self-managing team where great ideas and solutions can come from anywhere.
Not just from the leader.
Not just from the leader. Problems get solved closer to where they happen.
And what's the payoff for the leader personally? I mean, besides a more capable team.
Well, you get less bogged down, less overwhelmed, less frustrated by being the answer machine.
More time for the big picture stuff.
Exactly. You get to focus on steering the ship, setting the vision, the strategy, not plugging every tiny leak by hand. You move from managing chaos to actually building capability.
That sounds like a much more sustainable and, frankly, more rewarding way to lead.
Absolutely.
So let's leave our listeners with a thought. Think about a challenge your team is grappling with right now. Ask yourself, what's the real challenge here for me as the leader in helping them own the solution? Where is my advice monster getting in the way?
And maybe identify just one of those questions. What's the real challenge? And what else? or what do you want that you could try asking this week. Just one conversation to start practicing.
Start putting that leash on the monster.
Exactly. We'd genuinely love to hear how it goes. Engage with this, try it out, share your experiences maybe in the comments or within your own leadership circles. Talk about what happens when you shift from being the problem solver to being the catalyst.
It's a journey for sure. Taming that monster takes practice.
It does. But the impact for you, your team, your products, your whole organization, it's truly significant. Well worth the effort.
And that brings us to the end of this debrief. Our goal is to give you not just ideas, but a more powerful way to think. If you found value in this discussion, the best way to support this work is to give this episode a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel so you never miss a future session. And if you know a fellow product leader who is wrestling with these same challenges, feel free to share this episode with them. As always, you can find the link to the original in-depth article by Karsten Schwarzkopf directly in the description below. Thank you for your time and your attention. Stay sovereign.